Hello and welcome to Christian Book Review. I'm Lucas Kitchen. Thanks for watching. You can find more content like what you're going to see in this video on www.freegrace.in. Now, wherever you're watching this video, don't forget to click the subscribe and the bell button and the whatever button so you can see the next books that we do. Today we're going to be talking about The Girl Who Could See. You can see the cover here. Beautiful cover, by the way. Way to go, Kara Swanson, whoever you worked with on your cover design, is a real artist. I love a cover that has a sense of art to it, and this one really wins, in my opinion. Now, this is a novella. I picked this novella up because I saw the author's name on the list for a writing conference that I'm going to, and I thought, hey, that looks cool. Let's see what she's doing. Now, she's got some full-length books that she's done with Enclave Publishing, and I'd love to get my hands on those at some point and take a look at those. They seem to be based on having something to do with kind of a Peter Pan retelling, but I don't know anything about them other than what I saw on the cover. So, looking forward to learning about that. But The Girl Who Could See is what we're going to talk about today. And this is a fun little book. Now, you can get to this review, the extended write-up of this review, at freegrace.in/The Girl Who Could See, all one word, The Girl Who Could See, freegrace.in/The Girl Who Could See. So the title is The Girl Who Could See, a novella by Kara Swanson. The aspect, what I would say here is that it's modern, but it's kind of 80s nostalgic. Sort of a science lab, urban fantasy, paranormal thriller. I think you'll enjoy it if you like that kind of genre. Now, it moves really quickly because it is a novella. The main character is female. The ideal reader's age, I put this at young adult. Kara seems to be writing for young adult, and I still enjoyed it, although I think I'm a little old for the target market. But I would say probably middle grade could enjoy this as well. The ideal reader's gender, I'm going to say female. The content of the story had a strong love interest, and not that men don't like that or boys don't like that, but definitely felt like it leaned towards a feminine sensibility. The content, family-friendly, really all the way through. There was no profanity, nothing gratuitous. It's a safe book. Now, the reason why I circled discernment in a dotted line is it does have a monster aspect in it. And, I wouldn't have a problem letting even my 5-year-old listen to an audiobook version of this book. But if monsters creep you out, there is a bit of a monster element in here. So, a little bit of discernment if that's something that bothers you. But honestly, the content was very family-friendly in my opinion. The Christian themes, I put this as unnoticed, although there was one line in the book where one of the characters mentioned that she prays. So that sort of clued me in. And then in the acknowledgments at the end of the book, Kara, the author, talks about her faith and talks about a little bit about what she believes, or at least you can kind of pick it up from the acknowledgments. So she's clearly a believer, and she's writing good, interesting, fun sci-fi from her own perspective, of course, because that's what writers do. And so in my opinion, it's a very safe book, and it also lends itself to discussions about Christianity and creation and things like that. But actual themes in the book, I put them as unnoticed. So this is my endorsement. This was a casual read I accomplished in one day. It has elements that fans of Netflix's Stranger Things might find familiar, as in a science lab-driven paranormal monster situation. This novella is a sweet little trinket that will entertain you with an intriguing concept and a plot that moves forward at a quick clip. Now, the publisher description goes like this: all her life, Fern has been told she is blind to reality, but what if she is the only one who can truly see? Fern Johnson is crazy. At least that's what the doctors have claimed since her childhood. Now 19 and one step away from a psych ward, Fern struggles to survive in a bustling Los Angeles. Desperate to appear normal, she represses the young man flickering at the edges of her awareness, a blonde warrior only she can see. Ooh. You can read the rest of the publisher's description on the book page or on our page at freegrace.in/The Girl Who Could See, all one word. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the characteristics of the story. I put this characteristic, what ratio of speech to description does the author use? I put this closer on the description side. There is quite a bit of dialogue. I love dialogue, by the way, and the dialogue was solid. It was good in this book. It rang true. But there was a lot of description because a lot of what's going on is inner monologue, and you can see that in the next scale here. The ratio of narration to thoughts. There was lots of narration, of course, but there was a lot of inner monologue, and some readers really like inner monologue, and so if you dig that, then I think you'll like this. Relationship. There is a bit of an ensemble feel to this. It's not a huge ensemble, but the main character is definitely working with others to accomplish her goals, and so that was that was valuable. What kind of relationship is primarily developed by the hero? There's definitely a romantic flair in this book. It kind of sneaks up on you. Actually, you don't like. I didn't recognize that was developing, and it kind of snuck up on me. So that was sort of charming. The mood, it is a bit melancholy. It's not a happy-go-lucky kind of a thing. It's a little bit melancholy, and I also said it's a little bit ominous, and that's because of the monster characteristic. Now, I don't know that I would call this a horror book. There are Christian horror novels and novellas out there. I don't know that I would call this that, but there is an aspect in it that if it were made into a movie, there would definitely have to be some scenes that would inch into some scary territory. The hero is a bit of an outcast in this. So if you like stories where the hero's an outcast, I think you'll like this. The hero is very reactive. Of course, she's dealing with a world that's falling, her own world that's falling apart, so she's very reactive to what's going on around her. This is one thing I like. So there are books out there that have so intricate of description that it's difficult to stick with it. This one wasn't that way. This one moved along so quickly, and the description was fairly sparing, honestly. Is a description in natural or embellished styles? Very natural. It's easy to read. It's one of the reasons why I say it'd be great for young adult, maybe even middle grade. It's very natural. The exposition was narrated. Now, this happens in a novella, in my opinion, because it's just a condensed format, and so sometimes the rather than what you would do in a novel is you would allow your character to discover all of the exposition, or as much of it as you can. In a novella, you have to condense, and so one of the ways to condense is to narrate the exposition, to just explain in narration what's going on. And so there was some of that, but there was still lots of discovery. There were things that I didn't find, predictable in the story. The exposition was fairly restrained. I mean, it left me kind of wanting more description of the world in which the character lived in, which is good. That's a good thing, in my opinion. The plot was very speculative, and it wasn't incredibly twisty. There weren't a lot of twists. It was a pretty singular plot that kind of drove forward. The reason why I tinged it a little bit toward predictable is, now I'm calling this an 80s nostalgic modern paranormal story. And so there are some elements in it that are kind of predictable, but there's something charming about that. I think that was intentional with this story. In the same way that when you watch Stranger Things, if you're a Stranger Things fan, which I'm not endorsing it or denigrating it, but if you happen to be, you kind of have a sense of what's coming, right? Because it's nostalgic, it's a throwback, and this felt that way. It felt like kind of a throwback to some of those older types of stories. What is the pacing of the story is very urgent. It moved along. Now, I read this in one day, and so it felt very urgent to me because it was like, I mean, you know, I read it in the 3 hours or whatever that it takes to read it. And so it moved along really quickly because I stuck with it and got it done. The scope, it wasn't, it was all within Los Angeles, but it was still kind of an odyssey through Los Angeles, and then there is a further odyssey beyond Los Angeles toward the end, although it wasn't clear to me whether we were doing dimensional travel or but anyway, it still felt like an odyssey. It was kind of localized in a sense, but it felt like an odyssey. Mostly internal or external discoveries. I put it right in the center because there was a lot of both. She's learning a lot about the world and expanding the world that she thought she knew, but she's also learning a lot about herself. Are the main goals achieved by a single character or a group? I put teamwork here. Now, not a huge group, but there's an FBI agent, there's the main character, and then there's this other character that I don't want to say too much about because I don't want to give a spoiler. But those three are really, really important in the story. Now, there's other characters, of course, but those three work together pretty closely to get the goals done. The stakes, if she doesn't win, it's annihilation both for her and for the human race, for the world, and maybe the universe, you know. So the stakes are really high. Now, there are those out there that like to read low-stakes books. I was talking to somebody the other day that it bothers her if it's always like the world is going to blow up because it brings anxiety and stress, and she really gets into her books. And so she likes low stakes. But if you like high-stakes books, this one might be for you. Who will the outcome affect? It's cosmic in nature. So that is The Girl Who Could See. I only review books that I consider safe to read and enjoyable and get my endorsement. So this one gets my endorsement for the young adult audience. I hope that you enjoy it. Come back to freegrace.in to find out more about future reviews, and don't forget to subscribe on wherever you saw this book review. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.